All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's form building webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be walking us through the builder today. Today, we'll be talking about the open text widgets. That will be the text field and the large text field. And let's go ahead and jump right in. If you do have any questions, though, please hold on to those. I will be opening up that chat toward the end of the webinar. I'll be more than happy to go back over any information or answer any questions if there are any. We'll be working off of our FormDr training packet. So we'll go down to our My Forms page and click those three dots at the right side of that packet. We'll then click Edit Forms. It's going to take us to the Add Forms page where we can add any tabs or forms to this packet. I've already set us up with the text field tab here. All I have done, though, is just add a scratch tab. And that's just going to be a blank area for us to work on today. So we'll go ahead and go next to Build. And that will take us into step 2, which is the builder. This will be where we can update the form itself and add any elements or questions to this form. As you can see, this is a blank area for us to build out that form, as mentioned earlier. That's going to be using the Scratch tab. The Scratch tab will come with a patient name widget by default, and that's simply because this widget is going to be needed at least once in each packet, because the name that's filled out in the first and last name fields of this widget, that's going to be the name that submission is logged under on the send and receive and records pages. So this will be needed, again, at least once in each packet. It does not need to be on every single tab. It only needs to be in there one time. But again, the information filled out in this widget will be the name that submission is stored under. So it's very important to only use this widget to collect the names or the name, of the patient or the person whose information you're intending to collect or store that under. All other names should be taken with a general text field, and that will be the first widget we'll talk about today. We can click the text field widget over here on the left sidebar. It will add it to the bottom of the page, or if you just wanted to click and drag one to a specific location on that page, you can do so as well. If you've added too many, all you'll need to do to delete any widgets on this page or elements, you're just going to hover over that element, click that nearest orange pencil icon, and that will open it for editing. We can then update the title, add any placeholder information, or in this case, we'll go ahead, delete and confirm. But the text field widget is just going to be an open area for your patient or for the person filling out the form to enter information into, and they will be able to type that information in. You will have a few different options in terms of how this information is collected or how it is displayed as well. So we'll go ahead and open up that text field, and we'll just talk about the different fields that you'll have available to you here. So first up, we'll have our title, and maybe we'll want to change this to something else instead, maybe phone number, for instance. And then you can add the placeholder information. We'll just do a simulated phone number. All right. And then from here, if we needed to add any other inputs, such as, another area for the patient to enter. And let's go ahead and change this, actually. This is a good opportunity to demonstrate this. But maybe this is a guardian name. Parent or guardian name instead. All right, and then we'll go ahead and change this first and last name. Now, depending on how you want to collect that information, you can do the full name in one field. If we just wanted to have that one field for them to enter their name, they could enter that their full name on one of these. But if you wanted to add other inputs so that it mirrored that same styling of the patient name widget, you can absolutely do so. So if you were going to collect that middle name, we could put that in there, and then last name as well. So these two widgets will now look the same and function similarly. However, the patient name widget will always autofill into each other patient name widget. That's just how they are set up. You can tell by these field names on the right side of the answer areas. These are not able to be changed. And so the field names on any added widget will be randomized for each input as well. So this just will add a randomized shortcode that's not being used anywhere else in the form. This just prevents any unwanted auto-population from happening. But I point this out because the patient name widget will always autofill with the most recently entered information. And so you just don't want to find yourself into a situation where the patient name widget is being used to collect the parent guardian name on the final tab of the form, because the moment that the parent puts their name into that widget, it's going to overwrite all of the patient name fields, from the end of the form to the beginning. And if they are on that last tab, they won't recognize that that's happened before they submit the form, and then you'll get the form submitted to you under the parent name instead. So again, this always needs to be used for the patient. All other names can be just collected with that text field. We'll go ahead and add another text field. And there's a few different ways, again, to collect this information. It will depend on how you would like that to be displayed, or if you need that information separated out individually. A lot of times we do have clients that will set something up where it's something like parent name and phone number. And then maybe you have the name, relationship to patient, and phone number. And in this case, you can collect all 3 bits of information in one single element. And if you were to require this element, which we can go through the toggles here right now as well. First up, you'll have the required toggle. If you did want this to be a required field, all you would need to do is enable that toggle. And now the patient will need to fill out this information prior to submitting the form. This will require all 3 fields on a general text field, so just keep that in mind as well, as if you are going to be setting questions up this way, then it will require them to enter all 3 bits of information. Your second tab over is going to be the align left. All added elements will align left by default. However, if you do prefer that information to be aligned right instead, you can disable this toggle and it will bring that answer selection area up on that same line as the title. I prefer the align left just because it will give the patient a little bit more area to fill out those answers, which we can go next to style. Next to style will always give you a live preview of the form, but we can see 2 different elements here set up with those 3 fields. However, this one is aligned right down here at the bottom, and so we will have a little bit less area to fill that out. This might not be a big deal on a form online or on a website, something like that. It can be problematic if you are printing out blank PDFs of your form to be filled out in Office. So that is just something to keep in mind as you're building out your forms, just to know and kind of plan ahead about giving your patients enough area to fill out their answers. All right, and then of course the hide on print and hide from user toggles. These are both going to omit this question in certain situations. Hide on print, if enabled, is going to hide this question anytime the form is printed out, such as a blank PDF for in-office use, as we were just talking about. If this is enabled, then this question will not be included in that printout. If hide from user is enabled, then this will omit this question anytime it's sent to the patient, meaning the patient will not see this question when they're sent the packet. And so this makes for a really great option for any staff-only information. A lot of times it's a doctor's signature or attorney's signature or some bit of information that needs to be filled out after the client has submitted the form, but they're on autopilot as they're going through the form and just signing every signature field that they see just to get through it and get it submitted. However, once they submit that doctor's signature being signed already might make some hassle on your end of that submission when you do need to go in and update that information. So I always just recommend to go ahead and toggle on that hide from user toggle for that signature field or whatever field that you need to fill out after the fact. This way the patient won't see that information. They won't have an opportunity to fill it out. However, it will be there for you when that submission comes back for you, or comes back to you, and you'll just be able to update that accordingly. Okay. We'll uncheck that just so that we don't forget. All right. Another feature of the text field, which we'll go ahead and remove these from our area just so we can have a clean. We'll leave that one. But we will add a new one at the bottom here, a new text field. And this time we're going to put a few different text fields into a column widget. And now the column widget will allow you to have multiple elements displayed per row. So we can add ourselves 2 more text fields in here. And now we can have all 3 of these displayed on that same row. You will be able to update the column number as well. This will determine how many elements are allowed per row. You can set it to 2 since we only have 3 on this form or in this section, but you can go out up to 9 elements per row if you have a large section being built out. But just to talk about these for a moment, we will talk about the format option here. It will always default to text, which will allow the patient to just free type whatever answer they need to. But for this one, we're going to make this a social security number. The second one, we will make a phone number. And the third one, an email address. We can go ahead and add our placeholder information as well. Add that simulated phone number. And same for the social security number. Go ahead and add those in there as well. All right. Now, one thing to note about these widgets is the text field widgets, that is, you will have the opportunity to change the format of that widget. So for this first one we have set as a social security number. We can select from this drop-down, this format drop-down, when we have it open for editing, a few different options here. So we can select SSN, and now it will force that patient to enter a certain amount of digits, 9 digits, or whatever the social security number is. And then likewise for phone number, we can go to that format dropdown, select phone number, and it will force them to enter a 10-digit phone number. For email address, we can select email, and this will require them to enter an @ symbol and a .something, .com, .edu, whatever the case may be, but it will have them put or require them to put that email address in an email format. And again, we can get to that by clicking that orange pencil icon for the element we want to update and going down to the format dropdown. You can also set this to number, which will not allow them to enter any text. They will need to enter numerical digits only. However, again, it will always default to text. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. We'll talk a little bit about the large text field here. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's go to the style page and we can then see how this will, require them to put in those specific digits. It will also format itself accordingly as well. And then the email address, test. If we were to click off, it would say click or enter a valid email address, but we can put in that .com and we'll be good to go. All right, back to the builder, and we'll talk about the large text field. Now, the large text field is going to function very much the same as the text field. However, this is just going to be a large area for patients to be able to enter text-based information. So you won't be able to update the style or the format here on this one. This will just be as it says, a large text field for them to write out any information. So this would be a good option for any notes or any additional information the patient might want to include on a form. This might also make a good candidate for any staff-only notes that you want to have in there, just so you have a large area to fill out as much information as needed. Again, there won't be a limit of characters for that matter for this widget, so you can have the patient type in all sorts of information or as much information as they need into this widget. Now you can also use the toggles at the top, very much the same as those text fields. We'll have our required toggle, our align left toggle, and our hide on print and hide from user toggles as well. So again, if this was staff only notes or something like that, I would go ahead, toggle on that hide from user, and then the patient won't be able to see this. We'll be able to then add our patient notes or whatever the case may be after the fact. Or if you did need to send that out pre-filled for whatever reason, you can also hide that, have that pre-filled so that when it does come back, that next person to look at the submission will have that information for you. Or from you, excuse me. All right, and that is the text field and large text field. Pretty straightforward in terms of their use. However, these will be some of the most used widgets when you're building forms, just because they have many different uses, all to collect information, but you can get very creative with them. And especially for large sections, I like to often recommend anything that might be asking for information about allergies or previous surgeries or anything that might have the patient writing a lot of information. We can always just put one of these into a column widget, set it to 2 wide, just because I think it looks better that way. And then we can add as many as we need using the duplicate function. And then from here, we'll then have a large area for them to write stuff out. But this will also be nice and formatted and allow us to still have enough room for them to write their answers, but not take up an entire page worth of information. So I often recommend using those columns to make things look a little bit nicer, but it can also give you some different functionality in terms of how the patient's going to be interacting with the form anyway. All right, let's go ahead and open up that chat as well. I know we are running a little bit short on time here, but the chat is open, and if you do have any questions, please feel free to get those in before we wrap up today. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and talk about going to the publish page. Again, we're on the style page. The style page will be a live preview, as I've mentioned previously. It just means that if we do have any required information and we click past that, it'll pop up. We can also test conditional information here on this page as well. So if something isn't displaying properly, or if you want it to look differently, you can always just go right back into the builder, update that accordingly. Maybe we want this to be 2 instead, and then we can go back to the style page and see how that's looking for us. So, and then once we're ready, we go ahead, click next to publish. And from here, we just need to click the Finish Building or the My Account button at the bottom right. Either one will take us back to the Send and Receive page. This is just going to give us one last opportunity to maybe update that packet title or collect any of the other information from this packet as well. Once we're ready, we click Finish Building, go to My Account, and now our changes have been saved and published. We can go back to the My Forms page, click on that public link of the form, and see that packet that we've built out, or any of the updates that we've made to that packet anyway. All right. It doesn't look like we have any questions today, so that will conclude this webinar on the text field and large text field widgets. Thank you again for joining us today. And just as a reminder, we do host these form building webinars every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Beginner will always be on Tuesday and the advanced on Thursday. That's not to say that the beginner is a prerequisite to join the advanced. We just get into some of the more complicated scenarios in that Thursday webinar, in the advanced webinar. But please feel free to join us as often as you like, and for as many of these as you like. They are all free. And of course, if you do have any staff members or coworkers that you would like to learn this information as well, we highly encourage you to send them our way also. But if you would like to keep up with the schedule of the form building webinar series this month, you can always go to My Account, Support, and Search Guide. This will take you to our product guide, which can answer many questions that you might have in terms of just using the account, setting up integrations or building forms, whatever the case may be. We will be able to answer many of those questions through the articles in our guide. For instance, we talked a little bit about autocomplete today with the patient name widget, but you can come in here. We'll have some imagery for you and tell you exactly what you'll need to make that happen in the form. But you can also come back to our product guide homepage and click on the FormDr updates section down at the bottom right. This will take you to our updates, and this will have information about our recently released updates, or each quarterly anyway. And then of course our form building webinar schedule. So we do have the February one has been completed. We are in March now. We can click on that March webinar schedule. Our onboarding schedule won't change too much. The onboarding webinars will be held every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, where we just go through general use of the account, how to send forms, update users, and things like that. Again, that schedule won't change too much, but you can come here and see each day that we'll be having that and what we'll be talking about as well. But if you scroll down below this section, we will have our beginner and our advanced form building schedules for these webinars, and we'll have the topic with a little description about what we'll be going over in that webinar. So please come to this page and just check this out to see if there's anything that you would like to be in attendance for. If there is something that you would like to be in attendance for that you won't be able to be in attendance for, don't fret, because you will always be able to get the recorded version of that. If we go down to the February one, for instance, we will be posting these as well after the fact. And once we have posted them, it will just say posted. Click here in that title. You can then click on that. It will take you directly to that YouTube page with that video. And we'll also have some timestamps down here at the bottom about what we're going over as well. So please come and check that schedule out, just to make sure if there is anything that you would like to learn, or if there's anything that we've gone over in the past that we have videos posted for, please feel free to watch those at your leisure. But thanks again for joining us today, and hope you all have a great afternoon. Hope to see you all again, and maybe your coworkers very, very soon.